guys, welcome to Silicon Valley Girl. A lot of you have been asking me how we started a company in the US, and today I'm gonna go into detail and talk about things that happened back in 2015. It's crazy to realize that it's actually been 5 years since we started a company there. The story is we were outside the US back then. We were trying to fundraise in our home country, Russia. We didn't get any investments, so we started reaching out to people outside Russia. And we're reading a lot of articles about, people who got into Silicon Valley, raised millions, and we read about those people and they seemed like, ordinary entrepreneurs. Yes, they were doing a great product, but we were like, we should try and do that as well. So we started reaching out to investors, and one of the investors introduced us to 500 startups, so ended up investing. That's an accelerator. But what makes it really interesting is that when we came to the accelerator, we came on a tourist visa. It turns out when you're attending a part-time program that is not full-time, and when you're starting a company, when you're not exactly working for your company as an employee, you can do that on a tourist visa. Yes, at some stage when you raise money for your company, when you need to be involved in business activities, you would need to get a work visa. But in order to get through the initial stages, tourist visa was enough. And a quick disclaimer, I am not an immigration lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a tax specialist. I'm just talking about our own experience and telling you our own story. So when we came to the US, we came on a tourist visa with no company really in existence because we had a Russian LLC that was kind of doing a different thing. The Russian LLC was doing the same thing but offline. When we had this idea of an online startup, we decided that we would not incorporate it until we get an offer from an investor, because we're also talking to investors in London, we're talking to investors in Europe, and we're like, once we get an offer, we're going to incorporate in that country, and that should make everything a lot easier. That was a really good decision because we have a friend who started a Russian company and then got investment in Silicon Valley, and then he had to pay $40,000 in order to convert his Russian entity to an American one. So it's a really expensive process. So when we came to the US, we had this offer letter, we had a tourist visas, and that was basically it. So first of all, how do you start a company? When you want to fundraise, the ideal company that you can form is a Delaware C Corp. This entity allows you to raise money from investors, and also Delaware is a tax-free state, which means that you would only pay federal tax on your income. But the thing is, with a Delaware C Corp and being in Silicon Valley, you still have to register with the state of California. So in addition to your federal tax, yes, you're not getting Delaware state tax, but you're still getting taxed by the state of California. And a lot of startups who raise money in Silicon Valley, they end up staying there, so they still have this federal taxation and taxation from your state. So we decided that we're gonna go the traditional path. We're gonna start this Delaware C Corp. I know some people in our batch ended up starting companies in Cayman Islands to avoid even the US taxes. I didn't go deep into that. I thought we were gonna go the easiest way. And the reason why a lot of people in Silicon Valley do that is just because investors understand this type of corporation, they understand Delaware laws, and a lot of agreements that you can find on Y Combinator's website or on 500 Startups website, they are made specifically for Delaware C Corps. So we're like, okay, we're forming the C Corp, how do we do that? And so back then, there weren't any startups that helped other startups incorporate in the US. So we had to go to a traditional law firm. Our law firm is called Cooley, and back then they charged $2,500 for incorporating and creating this Delaware C Corp. They also helped us with all the templates for offer letters, for contractor agreements, like all of those documents was sorted by them, and they also helped us get the EIN, Employer Identification Number, so we can legally operate. These days, there are a lot of startups that would help you incorporate without paying so much money, for example, Clerky or Stripe Atlas. The only thing with incorporating through those startups, they do everything at scale, so they don't really fit individual needs. So if you have like a previous company that you have ties to, or you have investors already, that might be a little difficult, but explore. They are a lot cheaper than $2,500. The next problem for us was starting a bank account. For a bank account in the US, if you're a foreign founder, you would need a tax number called ITIN to create a bank account. And the problem was, I was reading a lot of forums, and a lot of international founders were saying that it took up to 6 months to receive that number. And we came to the US without a lot of cash, and we were really dependent on getting that investment into our bank account. account, and we realized if we don't get the bank account 2 or 3 months, we're gonna run out of money. But luckily there was this Silicon Valley Bank. I don't know if they still do it, but back then they offered bank accounts to international founders in a streamlined process. But you had to prove that you got investment from a local VC or an accelerator. And we were really grateful because they helped us. And that's the thing, guys, when you're coming to the US, not just to start on your own, you know, you're in a tourist visa, you don't know what's happening. It is great if you're coming to attend an accelerator or a program, because you get a lot of networking and you get a lot of useful connections that just help you streamline everything. The next question after starting a company was taxation, because I had no idea about American taxation, how it works. I just knew that if a company is making losses, then the company doesn't pay taxes. And that was good, because when you're just starting out, you're probably just making losses in your first couple or 3 years. Or what I'm hearing from a lot of Silicon Valley investors is that the majority of companies in Silicon Valley actually lose money. I was like, how do we structure all of that? How do I keep my company's books? Again, I came to a country, I had no idea how it works. I just found a CPA through a recommendation and I talked to her and she's like, you know, you don't have a lot going on right now, so you can do your books yourself. So I just downloaded QuickBooks, connected it to our bank accounts, and you know, just started reading, started watching YouTube. The accountant for a corporation like ours costs around $750 a month, and back then that was like too much. So I started doing bookkeeping myself, and then at the end of the year, I just paid a CPA to file all the forms for us, because that is something I can't do at all. Even now, I have no idea how that works because the forms are huge. You definitely need a specialist for that. And if you're asking about taxes, yes, taxes in the US are really high, and you really need to justify for yourself whether it makes sense for your company to be in the US or not. For us, you know, being in the US and having the ambition to grow internationally was a game changer, because being a Russian company, it's really hard to acquire customers from, say, Brazil or Italy, because international payments, just a lot of headache. This issue of trust, because, you know, some Russian companies trying to charge you money, I don't know. The US made perfect sense for us, especially with Stripe, and we use Stripe and Braintree to collect payments. We were able to collect payments from students from 90 different countries, which was amazing. The thing is, taxes are high, but the American tax system works in a way that if you invest back in your business, if you are buying, say, computers for your company, if you're investing in ads, if you're hiring more people, if you're promoting your brand, then this is all a business expense. That means that you can deduct it from your profit and end up paying zero or very small taxes. And if you're building an online startup, there is also such thing as R&D tax credit. So if you invest in building a new platform, if you invest in research and development, you might qualify for that. So basically you are deducting, and please don't quote me here, but I think you're deducting your tech people's salary from your taxes. But again, it is really important that you consult with your CPA because situations are different. And yes, America is the country where you can't do your taxes yourself. Maybe you can, but if you're a foreign person with a C corporation, maybe some businesses abroad, you definitely need a professional. And sometimes I talk to people from like Estonia, Finland, and they say, oh, we file everything online ourselves because it's so easy. I'm like, oh my God, I pay hundreds and thousands to my CPA to help us with that. And then another problem was actually staying in the US, because, you know, we raised that money, we had our investors, and then how do we stay here? We had a meeting with a lawyer who came to 500, and she was like, H-1B visa is really hard for you guys, O-1 visa, no chance of getting, L-1s, probably not. And the overall impression after this meeting was, oh, we're not able to stay in the US. So I started talking to other guys, and I found a lawyer who works closely with Y Combinator graduates, and he specializes in startups. And that guy told us O-1 visas are perfect fit for you guys. So we applied for O-1 visas. That's a completely different story, by the way, but it took me around half a year to get it. It was approved by the US CIS in the US, but then it got declined by a US consulate in Russia. And then I finally got it. And then in 2016, we decided to spend another year in Russia because we were running out of money and our company wasn't making any profit. So we thought we need to make our company profitable first and then go back to Silicon Valley. Because, you know, looking at startups who were living from one route to another route, it didn't make us happy about their business model, because we saw a lot of companies shutting down because they were not able to raise another round on time. And we're like, we really love our business and we don't want to lose it just because we're unable to raise Series A, for example. So we thought we want to grow organically, and yes, we're going to use investors' money to pump into business and grow it, but then we want to sustain ourselves. We want to be able to reinvest our profits to support the company, and that was the goal for 2016. We became profitable and we came came to the US in November 2016 on our O visas. And after having that nightmare with the O1 visa, I was like, we need to get our green cards right away. So I started my EB1 application. Again, I got an RFE first, request for additional evidence. I don't remember what it was, but they just needed additional documents. So I applied in March 2017. I think in June I got an approval. In August, I got my green card mailed to me, which was great. I'm also reading your questions here, and a lot of you guys are asking how was it possible to like manage the team in Russia. And the thing is, we have some employees in the US, we have contractors in the US, and we have contractors all over the world. A contractor means that they do some work for us. So for example, we have a girl who helps us manage YouTube. She performs tasks on an hourly basis. So she uploads a video, posts it, and then that's it. So she's not like a full-time employee, she's doing work for the team. We've been fully remote since day one, except for, you know, a small team being in Silicon Valley, and that's it. That has been a reality for us. And in 2020, when everyone started working remotely, for us, nothing really happened. It's just we stopped going to the office, and we have this small office in South San Francisco. A couple of apps I can recommend: Google Sheets to track all your progress, and it's really important to have KPIs for every single member of the team, because otherwise you can't control their performance. It's important to jump on calls, even with people who are doing like maybe 3 or 4 hours for your team per week. It's just important that they are in the context and they understand what's going on. Another advice, if you are really worried if people are wasting time and just billing you for additional hours that they don't work, an app called Time Doctor really helps us. It's really convenient for a contractor, because then they select different projects they're working on, and you as a manager can evaluate whether a particular project is taking too much time. So all in all, I can say that moving to the US was a game changer for us. It definitely helped us grow a company. It definitely helped us connect with Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and grow ourselves as entrepreneurs and personalities, and meet a lot of amazing people. From the business perspective, this is one of the best places to be. First, because of the culture, because you just see all those go-getters surround you who are making millions every month, and you feel like you're a loser, but then you're just motivated to work harder. But I also see a lot of people who get stressed from being in that culture, and then they just leave for Bali for, you know, half a year, and then they come back. It is really hard to be there, but it's really rewarding. If you're thinking of starting a business in the US, you know, think twice. Research a lot in advance, because it's gonna take a lot of your energy. I think the first half a year when we were there, 50% of my time was focused on paperwork, incorporating, getting business accounts, getting a rental, getting that, getting this. I couldn't spend a lot of time on the product. And then we started fundraising, and then suddenly it was 70% of our time fundraising, and we're like, no, we need to stop here because we really want to focus on the product. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video up to the very end. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and if you're interested in business, if you're interested in growing as an entrepreneur, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, Silicon Valley Girl, and I'll see you very soon in my next videos. Bye bye.